boxing fans? You're watching Saved by the Bell podcast. Me, H, and my co-host, Dark Side of the Moon. On today's episode, I'm going to give you a quick recap of the events that took place on March the 1st. There was quite a few events, but we're only going to stick to the three that we want to discuss. And then we're going to speak about the up-and-coming event, March the 7th, All Ladies Showdown in the prestigious Royal Albert Hall. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Before we get into that, we're going to speak about the passing of Carson Jones. You know what I mean? It's always sad when someone from the boxing community passes away. But before I get into the episode, Darkside, how you doing? What's going on? Talk to us.
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for asking. And we just had a very, very dramatic and somewhat controversial weekend of boxing, and that always makes it interesting. So looking forward to discussing that with you today, bro. But how are you doing? You keeping well?
I'm enjoying the weather. That's all I got to say.
Same.
Yeah, the sun's come out and I'm saying, you know what? Yeah, it's giving me life, bro. You know what I mean? But anyways, enough of me waffling about the weather. This ain't fucking the news channel. This is Saved by the Bell podcast. So let's get to it. First of all, I want to say rest in peace to Carson Jones. He died at the age of 38 due to surgery complications. I mean, listen, it's always a sad time when someone from the boxing community passes away. The boxing community is very small anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's very small. Forget the glitz, forget the glamour. If you're a pure boxing purist, the community is very small. And when someone passes away from our community, it's always a sad time, whether it's related to boxing or whether it's unrelated to boxing. It's always a sad time because once you're a part of this community, you will always forever be a part of this community. Do you know what I mean? Carson Jones, I'll just quickly give you a little brief info on his record. He had 44 wins on his resume, 32 coming via knockout, 16 losses, and 3 draws. That was his professional record. The boy's been around the block, like you said. He's been around the block. He's fought a few good names. The most prominent names that he's fought against was Kell Brook and Margarita. Do you know what I mean? But listen, man. Rest in peace to Carson Jones. Do you want us to give a few words, Dark Side?
Yeah, a few words just briefly. I mean, he may have not made it to the peak of the mountain, but in the eyes of most boxing purists, we appreciate all the time, hard work, and dedication that he's put into the sport of boxing for his own gains, but also for our entertainment. So a big shout out to Carson Jones. May his soul rest in peace.
That's right, man. Gone but never forgotten. And we always like to pay tribute on Saved by the Bell podcast for anyone in the boxing community that passes away. All right, cool. Let's get this show crack-a-lacking, man. Let's get this show started. All right, cool. So we're going to speak about 3 reviews, 3 recaps that happened all on the same night, March the 1st, in 3 different locations. We've got one in Puerto Rico, we've got one in America, and we've got one in Belfast. So you see, it was action-packed for March the 1st. As we like to say and Saved by the Bell, March Madness. Do you know what I mean? We're going to stick to 3 cards that we personally feel like and we're passionate about. So we're going to stick to only 3 of these cards, 3 fights, shall I say. Kicking things off, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach. We're going to start over there. Wow.
Start with a bang.
Start with a bang. Start with a little bit of drama. You get me? A little bit of controversy. You know what I mean? We're going to start right there. You know what? Before the fight, let's go back to before the fight. The build up to the fight. On paper, this was supposed to be Tank Davis's one of his easiest fights. He was supposed to breeze past Lamont Roach with fair ease. But come fight night, this was probably Tank Davis's hardest fight till date. Quickly and briefly, what was your thoughts when this fight got announced and when you first heard that Tank was going up against Roach?
Initial thoughts were, oh my God, not another letdown, like another show where we're expecting to get one of the sort of top 5 in the division, maybe another champion, and we don't. We just get a guy who many people haven't heard of in Lamont Roach. So that's kind of my opinions on when the fight was announced.
I think most of the boxing fans felt the exact same way. Sorry, bruv. Anyways, listen, let's get onto the fight itself. Now we had the favorite Tank Davis going up against the fairly unknown guy Lamont Roach. Now you know how the boxing fans are. Casuals are always gonna dick ride Tank Davis. You know what I mean? Yeah, like I always say.
Fanboy.
Like I always say, they want to get the fucking Johnson's baby oil and rub it on his Willy Wonka and massage it for him. Do you know what I mean? That's what the fucking casuals love doing. But what can we can't even argue with the casuals because casuals make more numbers than purists.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? So, anyways, let's get on to the fight itself. I actually thought, yeah, that Tank Davis will get to Lamont Roach by round 7 to 9. He will take out Lamont Roach. And I'll tell you why. Because Lamont Roach has a lack of defense. His defense is not great. He is easily to get hit. Lamont Roach, if you was to really and truly put in effort and throw your shots, you can get to him. You can hurt him. Do you know what I mean? And we've seen that in his previous fights. He can get hit. But the opponents that he went up against were not credible bangers. So it almost looked like, he can get hit, but he can't get hurt. Now, that changes in this fight because Tank Davis has got absolute power. You know what I mean? He lands, you're going to sleep. So I thought, you know what, with that combination there, because we know Tank Davis is a slow starter. He takes his time. He may give away a few rounds in the early on, takes his time, gets warmed up, and then bow. Once he starts landing his counter punches, once he starts getting into his motion, we've seen it many a times how it goes. You know what I mean? Anyways, so I thought that with Tank's style and Lamont Roach's lack of defense, it's only a matter of time till Tank lands his punch and puts away Lamont Roach. But boy, was I wrong. Because guess what? That boy can take a punch because he took a fair few solid punches from Tank Davis, whether it was body shots, whether it was head shots, face shots. He took a fair good amount of punches from Tank Davis, and he still stood there, and he threw his own punches right back. So I said, you know what? Credit is given where it's due. A round of applause to Lamont Roach. Maybe we underestimated Lamont Roach. Maybe we overlooked Lamont Roach. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that was the case. But quickly and briefly, before we get into the outcome of the fight, what was your initial thoughts on the fight itself? Skill for skill.
Yeah, fight itself was actually quite a good fight, quite a competitive fight, somewhat of a close fight as well. There's lots of drama in there. I do think we probably did overlook and underestimate Lamont Roach. I mean, some of the stuff he was doing in there really impressed me. I forget which round it was, but he caught one of Tank's counter punches on the glove and then threw a counter punch, and Tank was wobbled. I think that was the first time I've seen Tank actually stumble backwards, where it looks like it was a shot that made him stumble backwards. So, yeah, I don't think he got enough credit. But overall, Lamont Roach put on a fantastic performance. Tank also put on a good performance. But I feel like Tank's performance could have been better. I don't want to say too much here, but could have been better. But I think the lack of inactivity sort of had a factor in this fight. But I'll pass it back over to you, and we'll get on to the decision and outcome of this fight.
I totally agree with you. The lack of action will get you a little bit rusty. You know what I mean? Will have you moving a bit slow. But anyways, enough of that. Let's get on to the decision itself. Wow, what'd you make of the decision? It was a draw. Damn. All right, let me give you my thoughts on this briefly and quickly. Listen, I said it before, I'll say it again. When you're going up against a champion, you have to dominate the fight. Yeah, you have to win the fight significantly and clearly. Do you know what I mean? Because it's boxing and it's a business. For you to go and beat the champion, yeah, you have to dominate this fight. And let's get onto my thoughts on this fight. Did Lamont Roach do enough to beat Tank Davis? Yes, he did. So he did enough to beat a Tank Davis. Did Lamont Roach dominate the fight? No, he didn't. So you see the skills. So he did enough to win the fight, but did he dominate? No. All right, cool. Now let's get into the politics side of boxing. Ask any boxing fan who's Gervonta Tank Davis, and they'll tell you who he is. Ask the same question, who's Lamont Roach? They'll say, who the fuck is that? Do you know what I mean? Now,
Yeah.
That's where we got to weigh up with the popularity. Now let's weigh up business side. So PBC is not going to let Lamont Roach beat Tank Davis because Lamont Roach is not good for business. Let's say Lamont Roach becomes champion. No one's still going to know who the fuck he is. Do you know what I mean? They might know him for, oh, he beat Tank Davis, but he'll fairly soon get forgotten about. And the popularity for the WBA lightweight belt will kind of fade away. The spark of the belt will kind of fade away. Do you know what I mean? So it's bad for business. Now, Tank Davis, on the other hand, very popular. He can sell tickets. People want to come see him fight. He's good for business. Now, think about this. Let me ask you this. If this was a regular fight, yeah, and both men had the same popularity, but this was a regular fight, would the outcome be the same?
Good question.
Do you know what I mean? If this fight was a regular fight, no belts were on the line, both men's popularity was the same, and we saw the exact same skill for skill in the fight, the result would not be the same. Lamont Roach would get the victory.
Yeah.
But now, what does Tank Davis have that Lamont Roach doesn't? Well, he's got popularity, he can sell tickets, and he's a WBA lightweight champion. So you have to beat 3 attributes, or you have to at least match them to beat a Tank Davis. And Lamont Roach don't have that. So he's not good for business. So this was a business move. Why do you think they gave him a draw?
Yeah.
This was a clear business move. Anyways, I believe Lamont Roach got robbed in this fight. Oh, I'm not going to say robbed, but I'm trying to find a word that's not robbed.
Yeah.
But you get the drift. You get what I'm trying to get at. Lamont Roach should have won, but ultimately he don't have the attributes of business. That's what led to his decision to get a draw. Because Tank is good for business, Lamont Roach is not good for business. That's what it is, baby. Let me get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, my thoughts on this is pretty similar to what you just said. I mean, sometimes I go to the comments to give myself a better idea of what other people are saying and find that it's not just me thinking the same thing. I had it 7 rounds to 5 in favor of Lamont Roach, and that's without the knockdown. That was another piece of drama in the fight. You know, some people are saying it's not a knockdown, but me personally, a man that knows his boxing knows that if you take a knee, that's considered a knockdown. It's not physically a knockdown, but it's considered a knockdown. You get a count, and the fact that you've had a count means that you're going to get a 10-8 round for that round. So really, it should have even been slightly a wider margin, in my opinion. But look, I think it's really sad for Lamont Roach because it's an opportunity for him to really change his life. I think he's somewhat done that because he's shown that he's a good fighter. He's shown that, you know, he's worth watching. But it all goes back to that point that you said about popularity and business strategies and stuff like that. It's all going to be down to do with the business side of things and trying to make sure that they can keep the belts popular and make as much money as you can. You got to look at it from a promoter's point of view as well. It's like, if you know you've got a guy who's making you, let's say, 100,000 sales each fight, and then you've got another guy who you know is going to potentially make you half that amount of sales, which guy are you going to prefer to keep? The obvious answer is the one that's making you more revenue. But just moving on to the future a little bit, I think they need to have an immediate rematch. I don't want to see them fighting anybody else. Just straight into an immediate rematch and see what happens. because there was a lot of sort of dramas in that fight, and that knee was definitely one of the dramas. Of course, the other one was the draw decision, which most people didn't have. So, yeah, quite sad for Lamont Roach, if I'm being honest.
Most definitely, man. All right, cool. Speaking of drama, speaking of controversy, we've got another one in the bag for you, and it was on the same night, but just in a different location in Belfast. We had Lewis Crocker versus Paddy Donovan. This was for the IBF welterweight eliminator. So this was a big fight. Do you know what I mean? It was almost the atmosphere in the arena was so electric. You would have thought it was a title fight. Do you know what I mean? Listen, let's get on to the fight itself, man. Damn. I mean, where do we even start with this fight? Do you know what I mean? Where do we go? Where do we start? I'm gonna get straight into it. Dirty boxing from Paddy Donovan. Yeah. I'm getting straight into it. I'm not sugarcoating nothing. I'm gonna get straight into it. This was dirty boxing from Paddy Donovan. Listen, there's only so much that a referee can say to you. Yo, my guy, chill out. You know what I mean? Change your way, because the way you're going, I'm going to take a point off you. Then the point does get deducted. Then another one gets deducted. It's like, it's only so much that a referee can keep telling you no. Until the referee says, you know what? I've taken points off you already. And you're still fucking around. So you know what? Fight this off, disqualified. And we've seen many boxers over the past year or two pass away due to brain injuries. Yeah. I mean, in the heat of the moment, we might say that's too harsh, man. Referee, what you doing? But then you have to understand, this is boxing. This is one of the most lethal sports in the world. And brain damage is so serious. So in order for the referee to keep a fighter safe, he's got to disqualify you, because you can't keep headbutting your opponent like Paddy Donovan was doing to Lewis Crocker. Whether it was intentional, whether it was dirty gameplay, whether it was an accident, a headbutt is still a headbutt, and an injury can still occur from a headbutt. Brain damage, brain bleed, you know what I mean, hemorrhage, all this sort of stuff. So I believe the referee made the right decision to disqualify Paddy Donovan, because it was up until round 8. So there was 8 rounds of this fight that we saw. And the referee saw enough to say, you know what? It's 8 rounds. You're not learning nothing. You're not listening to the referee. You know what? You're going to have to get disqualified. You saw Crocker's face mash up. I think it was above his eye, he had a cut. Underneath his eye, he had a cut. His cheekbone was mash up. He was fucked up. You know what I mean? Donovan put in works on him. Now, here's my thing. Paddy Donovan was winning this fight. Paddy Donovan did not need to do any dirty boxing, because he was already winning the fight. All he had to do, even up until round 8, all he had to do was continue boxing the way he's boxing, allow the headbutts, allow the elbow shots. This is not UFC, you know what I mean? And you would have won the fight. But obviously, due to his persistent dirty boxing, the referee said, fuck that, you're getting disqualified. And then Lewis Crocker, you saw what happened in the last round. You get me? Accidental head clash. He went to the corner. Paddy went to the corner. Blah, blah, blah. Referee spoke to him, said, yo, chill out. Came back. Fight resumed. Donovan dropped Crocker with some brutal body shots. Crocker went down. Crocker got back up. The bell rang. And Donovan still threw punches after the bell rang. I think he threw about 4 punches after the bell rang. 3 to 4 punches, a second and a half after the bell rang. I mean, listen, did he not hear the bell? Did he do it on purpose? That's a whole nother conspiracy. But ultimately, I believe the right decision was made for Paddy Donovan to get disqualified, and for Lewis Crocker to ultimately win on a technical decision. Do you know what I mean? On a disqualification, shall I say. But anyways, before we get into he say, she say, what did you make of this fight, man?
Well, I thought it was somewhat a competitive fight when it first started. Maybe the first 3 rounds I had Crocker doing quite well, but slowly as the fight went on more and more, it was becoming quite obvious that Paddy Donovan was, winning the fight with technical ability, lots of feints, lots of head movement, lots of combinations and stuff like that. So the fight, as far as the actual fighting itself goes, was a decent fight to watch. I had Paddy winning the fight by a handful of rounds. I felt he was in the ascendancy, and I thought he was close to potentially getting a stoppage, but the end of the round was what saved Crocker in that final round before the disqualification. But I just want to go back to earlier in the fight and talk about the leading of the head and stuff like that. If you're leading with your head and the referee pulls you out about it, that means you've already been warned. He's then done it several times after that. I mean, I counted probably more than 5 or 6 times after that he was leading with his head. I know there were times where he led with his head and Crocker just went back and he held his head. And I thought he was being a bit soft, kind of like how footballers sometimes roll around on the ground when they've just been touched gently on the leg or something like that. So I thought he was making a big deal out of it. However, if you're going to do it that many times, then you're putting yourself at risk of not just losing the fight on points, but potential disqualification just from continuously leading with your head. The referee keeps telling you not to do it and you're not listening. The referee feels you're not listening to him. Often that can also end in a disqualification. It doesn't matter what the situation was. So he clearly wasn't listening. Then there was that dirty little elbow that he threw in there at one point, and then the punches after the bell, and specifically the one that knocks Crocker down. It was just quite embarrassing, actually, because Paddy Donovan is a fighter I've been watching for quite some time now. I've watched quite a few of his fights, and I've always rated him highly and followed part of his career up until this point. And to see him fighting like that, in my opinion, which is clearly dirty boxing, it wasn't just the head, it was the elbow and the punch after the bell had sounded. You can tell that he's fighting dirty there, and I don't appreciate dirty boxing. I'm happy to see a bit of roughness when it comes to boxing, a bit of pushing and shoving and a bit of inside rough fighting, and that's all fine. But when you're doing things consistently and you're getting deducted points for it, it's like, okay, it's time to stop and think and use your brain and just box well. So I do somewhat feel sorry a little bit for Paddy Donovan, because I feel like he was winning the fight, and I think it was a matter of time before Paddy was going to probably get the stoppage in that fight. And it's disappointing. But all I can say is, once again, these two need to have an immediate rematch. When you have drama like that and you have someone winning because of a disqualification, you've got to have an immediate rematch. Don't fight no one else. Just go straight back into it in the next 3 months' time and try and avenge that disqualification loss.
Most definitely, man. I agree. There has to be a rematch. You can't leave. It's politics, isn't it? We want to see a rematch, but I don't think there's going to be a rematch, because this was the IBF welterweight eliminator.
Yeah.
Paddy Donovan got eliminated. Now there's only elevation for Crocker. You know what I mean? So if this was a regular fight, like for an example, I'll give you Ben Whittaker, Liam Cameron. That fight was not an eliminator. It was a regular fight. Now the rematch, the people demanded it, the fans wanted it, and now there's a rematch coming. So that kind of makes sense. But this one was an IBF welterweight eliminator, and Donovan got eliminated. So I doubt there's going to be a rematch. But listen, I always believe in life there's lessons to be learned, and this is a lesson for Paddy Donovan to be learned. Allow the dirty boxing, man. Do you know what I mean? Allow all the dirty boxing, because if you want to elevate and you want to move on with your career, guess what? You're going to have to start playing fair. So this is a lesson to be learned for both fighters, you know what I mean? Anyways, let's quickly and swiftly move on to the last review, which was another eliminator fight. This was for the IBF Junior Welterweight Eliminator. in Puerto Rico, we had Subriel Matias versus Gabriel Gollaz Valenzuela. All right, cool. Let's get into this one. I'm not going to lie to you. I knew from the get-go that Subriel Matias was going to be too much for Gollaz. Do you know what I mean? This guy is like a Terminator. He keeps on coming forward. It don't matter, bro. You know what I mean? He keeps on coming forward. He keeps on applying pressure. But the first 2 rounds from Gollaz, I was like, you know what? I'm pretty impressed. You know what? You're doing your thing, fam. You're doing your thing. Wow. He's throwing absolute crisp shots, naughty shots, and there was landing on Matias. I'm thinking, damn. Matias is taking these shots, but how long can he keep on taking these shots for? Because what Gollaz is landing, they must be hurting. Anyways, come round 3, Matias just flipped the script. Table flip 360. He punched, I think it was an overhand right that landed on Gollaz's jaw and it rocked him. And I think Gollaz said, oh my God, what the fuck did this bastard just hit me with? He was fucking wobbled. He's like, oh shit. My man was rocked. He was fucking rocked. And what's happened? That's when Matias just started applying pressure and it went downhill for Gollaz. Don't get me wrong, Gollaz was still landing a lot of shots even after that. But in terms of taking the piss from Matias, because Matias did not respect his power, did not respect his speed, did not respect his accuracy. It was clear as day. From after round 3, Matias didn't give a fuck. Because even though Gollaz was still landing his shots on Matias, nothing was doing any significant damage. Now, where Subriel Matias was throwing his punches on Gollaz, Gollaz was feeling them. Every single punch that Matias threw on Gollaz, Gollaz felt. And ultimately, you saw the face. Listen, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. You saw what happened to Gollaz's face. Absolutely battered. He looked like fucking Quagmire from Family Guy. Jaw this way, face that way. You know what I mean? He was mash up. Round 5 came. I think it was round 5, end of round 5. The doctor had to step in and take a look at Gollaz's eyes, check him out. You know what I mean? With the torch, make sure he's all right, bro. And I think with a bit of negotiation from Gollaz, he persuaded the doctor to say, yo, don't stop the fight. I'm good. You know what I mean? Let me continue. So after round 5, 6, and 7, the doctor kept coming back. And I'm surprised the fight even went on. But I'm pretty sure Gollaz showed determination. He showed heart. And with a bit of negotiation with the doctor let him continue. Do you know what I mean? But ultimately, round 8 came and it was too much. It was just too much for Gollaz. Subriel Matias absolutely peppered him up, dominated him, landed brutal shots, which hurt Gollaz. 2 body shots. Gollaz went down. And the referee, by the time he got back up, the referee called off the fight. And Subriel Matias is now mandatory for the IBF junior welterweight title fight. Listen, big up to both men. Big up to Matias for the win. Big up to Gollaz for taking the punishment that he did and still continued. He showed heart, he showed determination, and that's what we love to see. Quickly and briefly, what was your thoughts on this fight here?
I thought it was a very entertaining fight, to be honest with you. Subriel Matias started very slow, in my opinion, but as I heard the commentators saying, apparently Matias never wins the first round. He's never won a first round in any of his boxing matches. But quite competitive for a few rounds. But I think, like you said, it was round 3 or something that just everything changed. And it was like Matias was very, very relaxed with everything he was doing. He was like a relaxed Terminator that just kept coming forward, kept throwing shots, wasn't looking like he was getting tired, wasn't looking like he was overthrowing any of his shots, and he just kept coming and coming and coming. And eventually he did get to Gollaz. It was just a matter of time. I did predict beforehand. I thought that Subriel Matias would win this fight, so it wasn't a surprise to see him win it. But it was more surprised to see in the fashion that he won the fight in. It was more like a systematic beatdown and breaking up of an individual rather than, just a one-hitter quitter and he's out of there. So I thought it was a great fight. You know, Gollaz really gave it all he could. He kept throwing shots even up until the 8th round. He was still trying his best, but it just wasn't enough. So congratulations to Subriel Matias. He's on to bigger and better things now. He's going to be getting himself a nice title shot at some point soon, and we'll have to wait and see what that is. But Gollaz, he showed his heart, he showed his determination, and I'm sure he'll be back very soon.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. Listen, a loss does not define your career. It can only make you better. You know what I mean? So you learn from your losses. Life is all about lessons. Learn from them and improve and move on. Do you know what I mean? But anyways, it's easier said than done. But anyways, let's quickly and swiftly move on. All right, cool. That was the recap, the review done for the weekend that just went by. March the 1st. We've got that out of the way. There's our thoughts. There was our reaction to the fight. Anyways, let's quickly and swiftly move on to the upcoming event that's taking place at the prestigious Royal Albert Hall. We have an all-women's showdown. This is the first time in history that this type of event is taking place at the Royal Albert Hall. This is history in the making. This is bigger than boxing. This is going in the Guinness World Record books. We are a part of history. Saved by the Bell podcast, and you as boxing fans are a part of history. You're witnessing history right in front of your eyes. This is the first time that an event is taking place, an all-women's event is taking place at the Royal Albert Hall, and it just goes to show you how far women's boxing has come. If I'm not mistaken, was it a year ago or 2 years ago where we saw an all-women's event in Madison Square Garden? And that was we saw for the first time ever an all-women's showdown in Madison Square Garden, and now we're replicating that in the UK, in our own country, with pretty much a majority of our own fighters, British fighters, British female warriors, the Lionesses. Do you know what I mean? I know the footballers, the football team, England's football team, they get a lot of praises, the Lionesses, but the boxers don't. So guess what? Saved by the Bell podcast, we're going to give love and support to our Lionesses and our sport. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And before we get into the fights and break down each little card, we're going to give a big thank you, a big shout out to Ben Shalom, you know, and his promotion, Boxer. We got to give a shout out to them because I believe Ben Shalom, people try and take the piss out of Ben Shalom. And we saw in recent times that Eddie Hearn has been trying to take the piss out of Ben Shalom with the build-up between Eubank and Conor Ben. You see what Eddie Hearn's trying to do. He's trying to bully Shalom, you know what I mean? But let's not forget, not too long ago, Eddie Hearn was in Ben Shalom's shoes with Frank Warren. Frank Warren was bullying Eddie Hearn. And it's only up until recent years that Eddie Hearn's dropped his bollocks. He's grown a pair, and now he thinks he's a dog's bollocks. Now we're gonna have to give respect to Eddie Hearn because he's done what he's done. He is one of the best promoters, but I don't like the way he's treating Ben Shalom. I understand that's your competition.
Yeah.
But still, you was once in Ben Shalom's shoes. The way Frank was treating you, now you're treating Shalom. It's funny. It's a funny old world, right? Dark side. It's a funny old world. But enough of that. Enough of the waffling. Big up to Ben Shalom for putting this together. Big up to Boxer Promotions for doing this thing. Obviously, you know, they've gone through some rough patches, but things are looking great now. Things are looking much more brighter. Anyway, let's get on to the fights itself. Kicking things off around 6:15 p.m. British time, UK time. We've got Francesca Hennessy versus Carla Camila Campos Gonzalez. 8 rounds, super bantamweight bout. Listen, I'm going to keep it brief, keep it short. Francesca Hennessy, she is the future of Britain. She's the future of super bantamweight division. And she's got a bright future ahead of her. She's with the right team. Her father is also a promoter. So she's in the right care system for her to become great. And when you've got a sort of care system, how can you not become great? How can you not become a great sensation in the sport. And she's got the skills to pay the bills. She's got the charisma to draw the fans towards her. So she's got the whole package, bruv. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'm going to quickly and swiftly talk about the fights. Each fight. When I get to the co-main event and the main event, that's when me and Darkside will actually get into a proper discussion. So let's continue this one. We've got Chloe Watson versus Jasmina Zapotogzana. Hope I pronounced that right. This is a 10 rounds for Watson's European flyweight title. Ooh. Listen, we love watching WBA fights, IBF, IBO, WBC, you name it. We love watching those kind of fights, but we also love watching European fights. We love watching British title fights. I feel like sometimes people get too glamorized. They forget about the core belts in Europe and England, especially for us. British title fights, English title fights, they mean a lot. You know what I mean? They mean a lot. Maybe to the rest of the world, they won't mean a lot, but to us, they mean a lot. Even a European title means a lot. We're from Europe, you know what I mean? We want to show them who's the best in Europe. Come on, let's fucking have it. Yeah, you fucking Polish and Romanians, let's have it. You know what I mean? You get what I'm trying to say? So these belts mean a lot to us. And then obviously the levels get bigger, like Ring Magazine and the rest of the major governing belts. Cool. But European and British titles mean a lot to us British fans, British boxing fans, and as boxing purists. So I love seeing this. This is going to be a great bout. Chloe Watson, is she going to keep the belt? Is she going to lose it? Damn, Daniel, only time will tell. Let's quickly and swiftly move on. We've got a 2024 bronze Olympian making her pro debut as a professional boxer, Cindy Nagamba. Will be going up against Kirsty Bavington. This will be an 8-round middleweight bout. Big up to both ladies. Big up to Cindy for making a pro debut. Big up for Kirsty Bavington for taking the fight. It's a lot of pressure because it's a lot of pressure on both females. For Cindy, damn, I'm a highly ranked amateur. I'm a bronze Olympian. Now I'm making my pro debut. Imagine if I lose on my pro debut. Damn, am I good enough for the pro league? Or was I just good at the amateurs? What's going on? That's going on in her mind. We got Kirsty Bavington. She's thinking, raw, I'm already a professional boxer and I'm fighting an amateur who's turning pro. Fair enough, she's an Olympian, but she's turning pro. It's a whole different game now. Imagine me losing to an amateur. So there's a lot of pressure on both men, on both ladies, shall I say. There's a lot of pressure on both ladies. Anyway, let's quickly and swiftly move on. We've got Karis Artingstall versus Raven Chapman. 10 rounds, featherweight bout. Listen, we know what Chapman's about. She loves to throw bangs. She's a banger, you know what I mean? She's a wild one. Can she be tamed? Can Artingstall tame the beast? There's only one way to find out, and that's March the 7th. Anyways, this is where I want me and Darkside to get involved in a discussion. Co-main event and the main event card. We're going to go back and forth a bit here, and we're going to talk about these two fights. So let's go co-main event. We've got Caroline Dubois versus Bo Mi Re Shin, South Korean fighter. Hopefully I pronounced that name right. This is a 10-round fight. This is for Dubois WBC women's lightweight title fight. Damn, Daniel. This is Caroline Dubois' second defense of the title, right? She got vacated the belt. Fair enough. She got the belt. Who did she go up against? I'm trying to remember. Oh, who was her first title defense? It just slipped my mind. It just slipped my mind.
But I know we watched it.
Oh, it just skimmed my mind. Anyways, it was a draw. So her first title defense was a draw. People were roasting her, saying, "Oh, you got vacated the belt, and when it came to your first title defense, you won on a draw decision. So technically, you're just the email champion." What does the email champion mean? Someone who got vacated the belt and who's the email champion. You know what I mean? So even though this is her second title defense, I'm gonna go back to the point that I always make. This is gonna be her first title defense because you can't get the belt vacated and then win on a draw. It don't make any sense. We want to see you win, outpoint or knock your opponent out for you to be the deserving champion that you should be. You know what I mean? So let's go back to the drawing board. This is going to be a fight where we're going to see, okay, does she deserve the belt or is she just the email champion? Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of pressure on Caroline Dubois. Now, Bo Mi Re Shin, she, what was her record again, man? Oh. I forgot what her record was, but she's got more experience than a Dubois. She's been around the block. She's got a few losses, and I think it was 2 draws or something like that. Don't take my words for it. I've totally gone blank with her record. But anyways, this is a great fight for Caroline Dubois. A great step up. You know what I mean? And this is what I like about Dubois. She keeps on stepping up the levels. She keeps on stepping up the levels bit by bit. And she shows great determination. Anyways, let me get your thoughts on this fight here, and then we get into our predictions. What's your thoughts on this fight between Dubois and Shin?
I think it's a good fight for Caroline Dubois based on her last performance. You know, you want to make some improvements. You want to have good title defenses, and you definitely don't want to have title defenses that are a draw and leave that fresh in people's memory. So she's going to want to come back for this fight with a vengeance. I think it's a good opponent to pick. I just had a little look down a moment ago at her record. That was, I think, 18 wins, 2 losses, and 3 draws. So
right.
She's definitely a competitive opponent. I forget the knockouts, if I'm being honest. I think it was 10 by knockout. It's a good fight for Caroline Dubois because it's someone who's sort of rough and ready, and they've been in competitive scraps. I mean, to get 3 draws, that means you have to be somewhat quite a competitive fighter. So I think it's a good opportunity for Caroline Dubois to show her ability. If she just boxes well, doesn't get involved in too many like rough and tumble type of moments, then she should box herself to victory. But on the other hand, what we always love about boxing is it only changes one punch to change the dynamic of the boxing match. So we'll have to wait and see what Bo Shin comes to bring to the table, and we'll see what she's all about. But I would assume this should be a fairly convincing win for Caroline Dubois.
You know what? I believe I'm going to give you my prediction here. I'm going to go the total opposite way. I believe Shin is going to beat Caroline Dubois based on her experience and based on her boxing skills. We know boxing, we know how it works. The skills pay the bills.
They do.
If we're going to look at this fight, yeah, well, if I'm going to look at this fight, shall I say, I'm looking at this fight as someone who's inexperienced versus someone who's experienced. Someone who's a better boxer and who's got better skills than someone who's got less boxing skills. So I'm trying to weigh up. The only thing Caroline Dubois has advantage in this fight is her knockout power.
Yeah.
Her punch power. That's the only advantage that she has in this fight. Let me not say only. I'm being a bit unfair. One of the only advantages she has in the fight. Obviously, she's younger, she's fitter, you get me? But she's not really, she's a bit of a stiff fighter, you know what I mean? She's not really fluent in her footwork. She's not a really good mover. She's stiff and she likes to throw bangs. And that's a perfect combination for someone who's a textbook boxer.
True.
Like Bo Mi Re Shin. She's a classic boxer. So I believe, my heart wants me to go with Dubois. So does my brain, but I don't know. Something is telling me that Shin is going to beat Dubois on a points-based decision. Something is telling me that. And you know what? You know what they say? If your gut is telling you something, go with your gut.
Yeah.
And this is what my gut is telling me. I'm going with Shin for the win.
Shin for the win. I like
I'm
that.
going for Shin for the win. You know what I mean? Anyways, so that's my prediction for that. Did you give your prediction already?
Yeah, I did. I was giving Caroline Dubois, I think, gets that. I think she'll get a points victory.
Dubois, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Say no more. I mean, listen, 99%, 95% of the time, we always go in the same direction.
Yeah.
We always pick the same fighter. But you know what? We gotta go in different directions every now and again. You know what I mean? To keep things a bit spicy. Anyways, main event card. Let's talk about this one here. This is a big fight. This is a very, very big fight for British boxing, and this is a massive fight for women's boxing all around the world. You know what I mean? And we gotta put some respect on both of these ladies. This is for, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is for the welterweight unification. Women's welterweight unification. We've got the WBC belt on the line, the IBF belt on the line, the WBA belt on the line, and Ring Magazine belt on the line. Woo!
Wow.
Woo! That's a big fight. And I think the only remaining belt is in America with Michaela Mayer. Okay, where's she from? Canada or America? I forgot where she's from. Anyways, the remaining belt is with Michaela Mayer. So the winner of this fight, sorry, I didn't even tell you who's fighting. Natasha Jonas versus Lauren Price. 10 rounds, welterweight unification, WBC, IBF, WBA, and Ring Magazine belts are on the line. The winner of this fight is going to be facing the winner of Sandy Ryan and Michaela Mayer. And Sandy Ryan being one of her own, hopefully she gets the victory because that's an upcoming fight as well. I think that's taking place on March the 27th, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, imagine if Sandy Ryan beats Michaela Mayer. She's bringing the belt back home. Then we're going to have an undisputed women's welterweight fight in England. Can you imagine that? This is how big this is. This is how big this is. This is absolute crazy. All right, cool. Enough of the glazing. Let's get onto the fight itself. Natasha Jonas, the more experienced fighter, the much older fighter. She's a veteran. She's been about for a long time. You know what I mean? Her amateur pedigree speaks for itself. Her professional record speaks for itself. Lauren Price, same sort of boat, but just on a smaller scale, shall I say. She's younger, much younger than Natasha Jonas. I've seen the build-up. I've seen the both of them sit down together with Johnny Nelson. It's on YouTube. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch the sit down, the face-off between both ladies. And it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. Lauren Price believes that she will beat Natasha Jonas because she's too young, too fit, too fast, too strong. Natasha Jonas believes she will win because she's too accurate. Her timing beats speed. She's got too much experience for Lauren Price. Whoa. I mean, both ladies have got serious arguments. They've got serious valid points on why they believe they should win the fight or why they believe they are going to win the fight. And you know what? I just got to sit back and enjoy the hoo-ha, the rah-rah. Because damn, even though there's no real blood, there's no real bad blood, but there's real high-level competition.
Yeah.
Even though there's no bad blood, this is just a great build-up, a great matchup. And ultimately, we're going to see who's the best, who is the best welterweight. I don't know why breast came out. Yeah, listen, yeah. I'm laughing. Let me stop laughing. We're gonna find out. Yeah,
breast is the best. That's all.
Oh damn! Listen, we're gonna find out who's the best welterweight fighter in England, women's fighter in England. You know, we're gonna find out very shortly. I can't lie. This is a 50-50 fight, man. Honestly, I'm gonna give you my prediction, but right now, this is a 50-50 fight. Maybe you can tell me something that I don't know. Maybe you can tell the boxing fans something that they don't know. I want to hear your thoughts, Darkside. What's your thoughts on the fight between Jonas and Price?
Well, I don't know if I can tell everyone something they don't already know, but what I will say is this is a true 50-50 fight. It's that classic matchup of youth and speed versus experience and timing. It's such a good fight that I don't know really who to pick. This is one of these rare occasions where I'm literally thinking to myself, they could both win. And I could make a good amount of points for both fighters for why they will both win. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. I think Jonas will start somewhat slower, but she will build into it, where I think Lauren Price she'll start fast and she'll finish fast sort of approach. It's really difficult for me to pick a winner. I get so many flashbacks in my head of Natasha Jonas, and I always think, Jonas is getting on age-wise quite a bit now, but she always seems to pull it out of the bag somehow, kind of like Katie Taylor, where you think, she should be too old for this now, but somehow continues to pull it out of the bag. It's making me think that Natasha Jonas is going to win, but then I go back to Lauren Price and I think, she's young and she's got really fast feet and fast hands. She hasn't got the knockout power. So I don't think she'll be winning the fight on a stoppage basis, but it could really go either way. But if you're pressing me to pick a winner, I'm gonna go with Lauren Price. And I just feel like the reason I'm going with Lauren Price is I feel like sometimes activity is a key factor in how the judges are going to look at the fight. And I think one thing you always get with Lauren Price is high activity levels. So the question is, can Natasha Jonas land some really good bombs on Lauren Price? I think she can, and I think she will. But will they be enough to really equal the same amount that Lauren Price throws? And I kind of don't think that that's going to be the case here in this fight. So I'm going to say Lauren Price, victory. I think it will be somewhat close. I'm going to say a split decision. Decision to Lauren Price.
Okay. So we're going to the judges' scorecard for your one, yeah? All right, cool. I'm going to give you my prediction. I can't lie, I'm going to have to go in the opposite direction, man. And I'll tell you why. Based on the resume of each fighter, if we look at each fighter's resume, Natasha Jonas has a better resume. You know what I mean? She's in the likes of the Katie Taylors, Amanda Serranos. You know what I mean? That's where her name is. She's amongst those people there. You know what I mean? She's even talking about what she wants to fight Katie Taylor. She wants to, I think, rematch Michaela Mayo. She's already talking about other fights that could possibly get made, because she did get asked the question, once you beat, or if you beat Lauren Price, what's next? She goes, there's plenty of fights to get made. You know what I mean? So that's the mindset and that's the spirit that a true warrior should display. So that's one thing I've taken from her, is absolute oozing of confidence. She's absolutely oozing of confidence. She has self-belief that she is a better fighter and she can beat a Lauren Price. So I like to see confidence in a fight. You know what I mean? That's key. I like to see confidence. She's got a better resume. She's got more experience than a Lauren Price. I'm going to give you a prediction. This might be a lesson. This might be a schooling lesson. Same way when Canelo fought Floyd, Canelo learned a few lessons. Canelo was a young bull. He was fast. He had fast hands, power in his hands. Oh no, Floyd was old. The only thing that Floyd had on this fight was timing and accuracy. And timing and accuracy beat power and speed.
True.
Experienced beat inexperience. And let's switch over to this fight here. It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
We've got Lauren Price, who's inexperienced, going up against Natasha Jonas, who is experienced. Natasha Jonas has got accuracy and she's got timing. Lauren Price has got speed and power. So you see, it's like the scale is kind of 50-50, you know what I mean? But on the night, this is what I'm gonna think. On the night, I feel like Natasha Jonas has been there, has done it. She's seen many different styles. She's been there with world elite level fighters, and now she's going up against Lauren Price, because this is a big British fight. If it wasn't for a big British fight, she would probably be chasing Katie Taylor and them girls there. But anyways, enough of me waffling. I believe Natasha Jonas will win this fight on a point-based decision. I don't think she's got enough power to knock out Lauren Price. but she has enough skills to pay the bills. I believe Natasha Jonas will win this fight on a point-based decision. That's my prediction for this fight here. And on that note there, that's a wrap for this week's episode. Damn, we've got a lot to look forward to. You know what I mean? If you're a boxing purist, even if you're a casual, make sure you write this in your date. March the 7th, Royal Albert Hall. It's an all women's showdown. From start to finish, every single fight is a female fight. You know what I mean? So big up to the ladies. And I'm pretty sure this is taking place on International Women's Day. If I'm not mistaken. It's taking place on International Women's Day, right?
I did hear something about that as well.
Anyways, if I'm mistaken, please forgive me, but I believe this is taking place on International Women's Day. So what an absolute cracker to celebrate a day like that, to show the world that women can compete in the same fashion as men. Women can get paid in the same way as men. I mean, not to throw shade, but I'm going to have to throw a little shade, but not to throw shade again. No disrespect to this fighter, but this event, this card is way better than Harlem Eubanks' card and his fight. Do you know what I mean? And that's taking place on the same day. Damn. That just goes to show you how far women's boxing has come. Right now, we are in the golden age of women's boxing. We've got so many warriors. You know what I mean? Kate Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Michaela Mayer, Sandy Ryan, Natasha Jonas, Lauren Price, Sky Nicholson, Tiara Brown. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. It's absolutely amazing. And Saved by the Bell, we always give a lot of light. We always give a lot of light to women's boxing. Anyways, that's enough of me waffling. You was watching H Dark Side Saved by the Bell podcast. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, like the video, share the video, and we will catch you on the next episode. Gosh.
Peace.